Hello everyone, and a warm welcome to the first episode of Why No One Plays for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. I'm excited as hell to bring this to you guys. I've been waiting over a year to make Smash Bros videos, but I never really found the time nor the opportunity to get cracking at them, which bothered me for a while because I love Smash Ultimate. But now's as good a time as any. For those of you joining me for the very first time, Why No One Plays is a series I have on both my main channel and second channel where essentially I talk about characters in video games that are unpopular by analyzing what about them deters players from trying them out. This could range from in-game defects, such as being a bad character, or it could sometimes be due to unconventional playstyles or a factor not pertaining to gameplay. And as you know, Smash Ultimate has no shortage of characters with a roster spanning just shy of 90, so there's bound to be a few that you don't see all too often. Be that as it may, there's no fighter in this game who isn't employed by at least a handful of players, and I'd like to make a quick disclaimer that this series is not intended to be a personal attack against anyone or their main. If anything, my goal is to give characters more exposure by possibly highlighting the aspects about them that might be appealing to some of you. So with all that said and done, let's not waste any more time and begin with our first character of the series, Piranha Plant. Widely considered by many as a joke character, Plant's introduction to Smash came entirely out of left field, as in literally no one even expected this of all creatures from the Mario franchise to be selected as DLC. Yet somehow, Sakurai and his team were able to create a fleshed out moveset for someone who doesn't even move in the main series games. I'm sure everyone knows who this guy is, and yes, for the sake of convenience, I'll be referring to Plant as he even though he's genderless. In the original game, piranha plants are large carnivorous plants very reminiscent of Venus flytraps and are present in virtually every major Mario title. They tend to reside in pipes, occasionally popping out of them bearing their giant fangs for teeth. Pipes in Super Mario Bros. Are usually sought after for their ability to transport Mario across long distances in a short period of time. So these guys were added in place to make players think twice before recklessly entering pipes. Since then, piranha plants have been a mainstay in this series, and with how beloved the Mario franchise is, it wouldn't be a stretch to say that players were both surprised yet intrigued to see him in Smash Ultimate. Naturally, it wouldn't make much sense for him to be stuck in the same spot for the entirety of a match, and so instead of nesting him in a pipe, they chose to put him in a regular ceramic pot, although one of his alternate colors showcase him in what appears to be a portable pipe. Contrary to his visual size, Plant is a heavyweight fighter, the 9th heaviest in the game, 1 point under the weight of Mr. Kazuya Mishima himself. Like most heavies, he's got below average physics. Ground and air mobility are by all accounts rather slow to compensate for his innate survivability. And like traditional heavyweights, he comes equipped with a lot of raw power. Several of his attacks have immense amounts of damage and kill power at the expense of poor startup and or ending lag. But unlike traditional heavyweights, he has a good number of moves that come out rather fast, ultimately putting him roughly around the middle of the pack in terms of overall attack speed. Now, true to his role in the original series, Plant has incredibly good anti-air capabilities. Any vertical attacks such as up tilt, up smash, up air, or his specials have good range and dangerous kill power, most notably his up smash, which consistently kills under 100% and is near unchallengeable. Interestingly, but also fittingly, Plant is the only one in the game who can't be footstooled on the ground while crouching, as he has an animation that automatically counterattacks anyone doing so. It's not the most practical thing, mind you, but it's a noteworthy attribute that only he has. But the most defining trait to his anti-air prowess is undoubtedly Patui, his neutral beat, which spits out a metal spike ball and keeps it suspended while blowing upwards. The spiky ball can remain in the air indefinitely until he cancels it or throws it to the side. Additionally, if you're foolish enough to attack him while he's channeling, the spike ball will more often than not land on top of you, making it risky to challenge. Much like King Dedede's Gordo, it has a permanently active hitbox until it disappears, but what makes this move vastly better is that it's almost impossible to knock away, so your only options are to either avoid it entirely or shield against it, otherwise you're taking a massive amount of damage. But even blocking it poses danger, as a fully on-steel Patui cuts your shield by a good 40% if memory serves. All in all, this move is the shining virtue of Plant's kit. Piggybacking off of that, one of Plant's greatest strengths is the sheer versatility in his special moves. We already explained his neutral beat, but Poison Breath and Long Stem Strike have a lot of uses of their own. The former is very effective at rendering entire areas of a stage hazardous and zoning his opponent, while the latter dishes out staggering amounts of damage and kill power if charged all the way, including high shield damage, making it unwise to block as well. By the way, when I say kill power, I refer to launch distance, so damage is how much damage the attack does in terms of raising your percent, while kill power is how easily it throws you into the blast zone. Overall, his moveset is well suited for covering options, giving him a very threatening advantage state. If he sends you off stage or puts you in a juggle situation, he can back his opponent into a corner and force them to use the only option they have to escape that situation and punish accordingly. is a good trait to have in Smash Ultimate, which is heavily predicated on how much of a lead you can build while in advantage, as well as minimizing your losses while in disadvantage. Unfortunately, while his individual attacks are all somewhat decent in a vacuum, together they're not really conducive to maximizing his strengths. Plant's win condition is to use his unique array of moves to suffocate his opponents out of options, but to do that, you first have to win the neutral. For the uninitiated, the term neutral refers to a game state where there is currently no interaction between opposing players, and thus neither has a situational advantage over the other. You can see this on display most frequently in professional matches, where both competitors are dancing around back and forth or throwing out quick hits to look for an opening to exploit. Winning the neutral refers to landing a successful hit or punishing the enemy for a failed attempt to do so. In most cases, there are 3 ways to win the neutral. Land an attack that can potentially combo into further attacks, grab and throw, which also leads to potential combos, or strike the opponent from afar with a long-range attack, such as a sword or a projectile. And to do any of these, you often have to approach your opponent. That is, get close enough to them to land your attacks while at the same time reducing the likelihood of you getting attacked in the process. Therein lies Plant's most egregious issue. His advantage state is extremely difficult, if not borderline impossible for some characters to handle, but he lacks the means to easily and consistently force them into that situation. With his combination of slow mobility in both the ground and the air, as well as any of his fast attacks being either short-ranged or easy to punish, throwing the enemy player off stage can be difficult for him. Going off of the 3 ways to win neutral, let's start with throwing attacks. Ordinarily, you want to use anything that can either lead to combos or is safe on shield, meaning the opponent can't punish you after blocking the attack. If you go on Ultimate Frame data, you'll notice every attack has a red section that shows a number, usually negative, followed by on shield. What this means is that if the attack hits an opponent's shield, they can act that amount of frames faster than you can. So let's take a look at Plant's neutral air, which is -13 on shield if you hit your opponent while landing. This means if they have a strong attack that comes out on frame 13 or earlier, you're gonna get smacked right in the face. As stated before, Plant is quite slow on the ground, so his grounded attacks, while fast, are hard to land in the neutral. That leaves him with just his aerials. Aside from his up air, which isn't the best move to throw out since it doesn't have the best hitboxes for landing, the rest of his moves are not particularly safe to throw out as they have underwhelming range or are unsafe on shield. With how slow he is in general, it's easy for his opponents to preemptively shield for an incoming attack. Then there's grabs. To have a threatening grab in the neutral, you have to be fast. Fighters like Captain Falcon can throw out a lot of dash grabs on account of him being able to go from one side of the map to the other in less than a second. You're not going to grab anyone by surprise with Plant, I don't care who you are. That leaves us with the last option, projectiles. Zoners are notorious for having a strong neutral game since their projectiles cover large areas and are usually fast. Samus's Charge Shot, Wolf's Blaster, the Link's Boomerangs, Rob's Laser, so on and so forth. Sadly for Plant, Patui, despite being arguably one of the best projectiles in the game, takes a while to throw out because you have to go through the animation of spitting it out then tossing it. Moreover, it doesn't cover very much horizontal distance. Same goes for Poison Breath, a deadly attack, but not something you'll really see people throwing out in neutral. Essentially, while Plant has a ridiculously good advantage state in the form of anti-air, edge guarding, and ledge trapping, he doesn't have the means to force his opponents into those situations very easily, and so you have to patiently bide your time as you look for opportunities to do so. This, in and of itself, would not be enough for players to ostracize a character, but the second problem is what causes his strengths to diminish in value. Currently, there are 3 dominating archetypes in Ultimate. The first is Swordies, also known as Spacers, anyone with disjointed range that isn't a projectile. Cloud, Roy, Pyro Mithra, Shulk, Sephiroth. The second is Brawlers, any close quarters combat character. Wolf, Fox, Mario, Terry, Pikachu. The third is Zoners, projectile heavy fighters. Olimar, Samus, Min Min, the Belmonts, Lynx, and all of them can beat out Plant in one way or another. Swordies have a very huge range advantage against Plant since very few of his attacks are disjointed. In other words, even if you do manage to exchange blows, Plant would be the only one to take damage. Any attack with good horizontal range can also safely knock Plant out of channeling Patui while getting hit by the spike ball in return. And they can spend most, if not the entirety of the match, walling you out with their disjointed hitboxes. By the way, his pot has a hurt box as well, so attacks like dash attack or down smash and forward air are still at risk of getting traded with. Brawlers might have to put themselves in more danger than Swordies, but what they lack in range and safety they make up for with great combo game. Characters like Mario or Fox can overwhelm Plant with string after string, and while his advantage state is very powerful, his disadvantage is rather underwhelming. Technically speaking, Patui is a fantastic combo breaker, but at frame 9, it's barely too slow to throw out when you're being attacked. With Plant's relatively large hurtbox size and absence of effective disjoints, he tends to lose in close quarters combat against rushdown type fighters. Then there's zoners. Several of Plant's worst matchups just so happen to be those with a lot of area coverage, such as the Belmonts, Mega Man, Samus, the Lynx, and so on. They can repeatedly throw long-range projectiles at him with no risk to themselves, and you can't match them either since his projectiles are intended for trapping, not necessarily zoning. Most, if not all of his losing matchups can be boiled down to him having neither good range nor good mobility, and in this game you need one or the other to be successful. To his credit, anyone with equally slow or linear approach and recovery options as him are easy pickings. If Plant manages to throw anyone who takes a while to get back on stage or can only do so in one specific way, his edge guarding is almost guaranteed. Patui and Long Stem Strike work best against opponents who can't mix up their recoveries, especially those who don't have an easy way to snap the ledge quickly. The only thing you have to do in those situations is throw them off stage and you can close out stocks with no effort. All in all, Plant has quirky and insanely effective gimmicks at his disposal, but lack the conventional, practical tools needed to set up those gimmicks. His strong edge guarding and ledge trapping are not as threatening as they can be since he doesn't have the best neutral game. His really dangerous kill power and damage racking moves are made less valuable on account of them being very slow to start up, thus easy to see coming. His strong anti-air and vertical threat radius are cancelled out by his inability to set up juggle situations reliably. Basically, Plant has step 2 of every plan figured out, but forgot about step 1, and he can't get to step 2 without first completing step 1. Thankfully, the balance team was aware of how unforgiving he is to play and gave him a slew of buffs over several patches with an overall focus on improving his normals so they come out faster or have less lag. For example, in version 8.0, up tilt and forward air were made noticeably faster, which somewhat addresses his problem with sending opponents off stage or into the air. They also attempted to give him more flexibility in kill options. Instead of relying exclusively on his specials and YOLO smash attacks, moves like forward tilt can close out stocks as well. Were they effective in addressing his issues? To an extent. He certainly is a lot better now than he was on release, but the buffs weren't significant enough to alleviate his weaknesses enough to not be weaknesses anymore. Though it's hard to really say where his overall place in the meta is because hardly anyone bothered to give him a try even after all those buffs. Statistically speaking, Smash Ultimate is a much faster paced game than either Brawl or Smash 4, and so many popular fighters consist of those with high momentum and aggression such as Wolf, Roy, Rob, etc. And even for characters who play more patiently and defensively, they still have ways to force interactions and rack up damage quickly like Steve and Peach. So I suppose you could say that Plant's lack of representation stems from his playstyle not exactly fitting the idea of how the Smash community views Ultimate, and that is something you're going to hear me repeat a lot as I go over the other characters in the future. But anyways, I think that's going to be it for today. Let me know what your thoughts are on Plant, and for those of you who play him, feel free to share your experiences in the comments down below. If you enjoyed the video, I'd really appreciate it if you left a like and subscribed, especially since this is the first episode. Consider following me on Twitter, joining my Discord server. I just opened a Smash Bros section in there. And while you're waiting for the next character, I suggest you check out my previous video on 5 characters that I wish could have gotten a few more buffs. But for now, thanks so much for watching. Looking forward to continuing this series, and I hope you are too. I'll see you guys again soon for the next episode. Take care.